Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 5 of Creative Collaborations Conversations with Veronica and Jillian. My name is Veronica, and I'm here today with Jillian. Hi, Jillian.
Hi there. So today we're going to talk about starting now versus waiting for perfection.
I think it's such a good topic, and I see it everywhere around me. A lot of people with amazing ideas, actually working for years to the business plan, and they are still saying, I'm not ready yet. It's not perfect. Things are changing. I need to go back to the drawing board. What is happening? But I think we forgot something, Jillian.
Well, I think it's funny because what better example of this than our podcast? Because clearly we did wait for perfection, because this is like capital P perfection quality right here. So I feel like we're a great example of perfection.
Yeah. But maybe before we dive into the topic, how about we do our 1 minute of sharing that we usually do of fun fact, what happened this past week? Have you read something interesting?
Okay, so you just prompted me. So I have 2 quick updates. So one is, if you recall, a couple of episodes ago or somewhere recently, you introduced me. Oh, that's right. I introduced you to Ava, and then you also introduced me to Michael. So I just wanted to tell you that Michael is excellent. We had a fabulous conversation and have round 2 scheduled already. So I really appreciate that. Yeah. And the second thing is, so I have a little bit of a book issue, a little book problem. Yeah, I love books. So I could pan and show you my library, but I just got another new one called Deep Economy, The Wealth of Communities and the Durable Future. So this is a new book I just picked up. So so that's my update. That's what I'll be reading over the next couple of weeks. So
nice. We need to put the link in the description. So whoever wants a good book, I know I'm always looking for good books.
Well, I don't know if it's good yet. I haven't read it, but
okay. So let's wait until the next episode to figure it out. Is it good or not? I must say, I moved from the hardcore books, even if I love them and I do have quite a collection, to the Kindle one, just because my eyes are going so bad. And I love the fact that I can make them big. Technology is great.
I get it. I know, I get it. It's so hard for me to adjust to that. I one day.
One day.
One day more. Anyway, so
before we dive
or
start, definitely start. I'm thinking about all my businesses, like what I did, and the e-commerce platform that I used to have before coming here, the conference that I organized, the online networking with the spin events, this podcast. Maybe this is not actually, but even my business. What I realized, you do need to do your homework. Don't get me wrong. Don't wake up, have an idea, and say I'm going to do it. Wake up. Get the idea, go and test it a little bit, ask people, see what is happening, test it on a small scale, and then go and do it. When I say don't wait to have everything perfect, because guess what? Nothing is perfect. And it can't be perfect. And when you have a business, doesn't matter what it is an online commerce, it is a shop, it is services. You are influenced by what is happening in the world. You are affected by the economical situation, the social aspect of it. Your family, your private life has a big influence into that. Everything it's like a domino. Everything can actually derail you. So if you're waiting for everything and all the conditions to be perfect, you're never going to do anything, because that's impossible. So instead of doing that, and also your assumptions, we always start with assumptions, with an perfect idea. They will never fit the 100% the reality, because that's your vision of the world. And in the moment you are going and expressing and presenting and bringing that beautiful idea to to the people around you, to your clients, to prospects, to business partners, to whoever you are targeting, you're going to start seeing different perspectives. In last episode, we talked about creativity. While you're talking and presenting your ideas, new ideas will pop up. New solutions are going to come from that. And your small idea, your baby, if you want to call it like that, or actually, let's not call it the baby. I don't think that's good. But your business, we're gonna
your seedling,
change.
yeah.
Yes, we'll start changing, and you have a different perspective, and you'll be inspired, and new aspects, new shades, new layers are gonna be added to it. But if you keep it small and you wait for it to be perfect, it will never happen. It's like a flower. You need that inspiration, you need the water, you need the light, you need everything to be able to bloom.
So I'm curious then. I feel like this is I feel like this is us having a conversation. Like this conversation is bringing me back to the first time we had coffee, and I feel like I want to ask you like specific questions. So I'm curious if you're okay to share or if you can think of an example of a time where you maybe had a new service or a new service offering or something, a new skill set that you had developed or something like that that you wanted to offer to clients, but you hadn't done it before, something new. Will you share anything about that? Maybe, it doesn't have to be specifics like what it was, or maybe you do,
I
what it
don't
was,
mind.
but how you approached it. Like, how did you approach it? Did you communicate that with your clients or prospects? Did you offer it to existing clients first, or did you offer to the public first? Did you do discounts? Like, how did you approach it when it was something that was new and you therefore not sure maybe where the value was, what the price point was, how to package it, all of those things? So yeah, I'm just curious.
When you start asking me this question, what popped into my mind was a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, I had a service called Marketing Buddy. That was basically, some will describe it as coaching. I want to stay far away from that term. I think consultancy, because it wasn't only coaching. It has, of course, our work has an aspect of coaching in it when you're talking with especially small clients. But it was more consulting, training, and guiding clients how to implement. And so I was working with smaller clients. I always gonna have a mix of small and bigger clients, but from the financial aspect, I realized instead of keep on going every month after new clients, I need clients that stay with me for a longer period. So I was thinking, how can I do that to have a service that will be for at least 6 months, let's say, and will bring me a consistent revenue each month, a specific amount of money that I have. Let's say I can, looking at the hours that I will allocate, how many can I have to have a good revenue, to be sustainable and also like realistic. And this is how Marketing Buddy was built, because I was looking, what do my clients need? They used to tend to come for, initially I was selling only strategy. Now I have the marketing strategy where we go over the steps, and we also have the implementation. I also have a team. At that point, I was really alone. So working with the clients, I realized they can't afford it, but what they need help with when it comes to implementation, because I was doing the strategy with them, but the implementation was guidance and reinsurance, or sometimes you do need to tweak a couple of things as you go along, and you have the amazing strategy, the idea, but things are happening, and you do need to, as said, life is there. You need to adapt them according to what is happening. And this is basically what the Marketing Buddy service was doing. We were meeting monthly or bi-monthly for shorter periods, depending on their needs. And we were going, where are you at this point with the implementation? What do you need? What new things came? How do you implement it? What's happening? Analyzing and advising. And I came up with the idea and wrote a rough version of the service, like honestly in an Excel, made a rough estimation of, okay, it will take me around this amount of time, and this is the price. and I just shared it with a couple of people from my network, not my clients, never would have been my clients, but more peers, let's say, actually working, not doing marketing, but peers sharing the same space, office space. And I shared it and asked for, what do you think? Would you buy something like that? Actually, they could have been my client, but I knew they will never pay me. You get the idea.
It wasn't the right fit.
Wasn't the right fit. Wasn't the right fit. That was. And the feedback was great, actually. She said, if I could afford it, definitely I would go for it. And it fit everything. They did help me tweak a couple of small things. And then I said, you know what? I'm just going to test it on the next, during the next meeting that I have. Because at that point, I used to have a lot of meetings. Not that I have less now, but so I start actually presenting it. And basically from the idea phase, the ideation took me, let's say, a couple of weeks. Took me one day to write that and get feedback and to basically test it in the next couple of meetings. I think in less than 1 month while I was selling it and having clients for it, because it really fits to the clients. I didn't go back but to my previous clients, but what I did, I started introducing it in collaboration with the strategy, because what was missing was basically the implementation. While implementing it, of course, that's not always as good. And just doing it as quickly, you do have downsides. And I realized actually it takes more than I estimated to implement, because one of the services that they had, you have access to me 24/7. So something happens in your business, you message me and I'll respond. Thinking that, well, not going to take that long, but actually people do take advantage of that. So I did had to make a couple of adjustments and increase the price because it didn't make sense. But honestly, if I would have waited, even if I don't think I would have realized what I need to change without really working with the client in that particular context and realizing how much do they need me. And not only one client, but have an average of 4 or 5 clients to see, because you do need to have an average. Some clients will need you more, some will need you less. And you do need an average there, or you do need to have in your contract, okay, so you have me for this amount of hours. If you need me more, will be an extra payment or whatever you arrange around it. But the reality is you can't anticipate everything until you're not really working. And that also helped me realize the type of clients, or what do I want to do? Do I want to do this? And actually, it was my best-selling service. But I realized it's not sustainable for me because I was always busy and exhausted. I replaced it with proper implementation. Now I have a team and the service is way better, and they get all of that and much more. Of course, the price is also different at this point, but I can serve them better. However, what I learned from that is how to manage that relationship to make it better. So it wasn't a waste. It helped me at that point, and I learned so many valuable things that I can take and implement them moving forward with my next services. And basically you can see the marketing buddy 2.0 version of the service.
That's cool to hear. I like how you approach that and also shared the specifics, that it took you a couple of weeks to have the idea, a day to write it out, and immediately basically start selling it. And that you rolled with it, made some adjustments and some iterations to it, and then ultimately kind of merged it into your other existing service to now add a bigger and better service, perhaps, to make it perhaps more profitable for you and better value to your clients as well. So that's a really good example of that. That's cool.
How about you? Do you have an example?
So for me, first of all, I think it's funny, this idea of, I have to wait until I get more experience, and then I'll get started. But it's like, think about what you're saying. Like, how are you going to get more experience if you don't get started? Right.
Exactly.
So this has been one of those things that has been, rattling around with me for many years. So this is like, the stuff kryptonite is made of. Right. So for me, the first thing that comes to mind when I saw that this is a topic, that you had, when you suggested this topic, I thought of the imposter syndrome straight away, right?
That's a good one.
And so I feel like I am in good company because apparently there's scores of research out there, but there's I think a pretty well-known one from KPMG. It talks about 75% of executive women have had bouts of imposter syndrome. So it's clearly, the majority of women. So when I think of it like that, it makes me feel like, oh, I'm in good company, right? So it's not just me, right? So imposter syndrome. And for me, over my whole career, this has been kind of ebbs and flows of it. But one of the tools that's been very helpful for me, and that actually this KPMG research also underscored and suggested, is leaning on like trusted advisors, right? So it reminds me of many years ago, when I first learned about Keith Ferrazzi. I read his book Never Eat Alone, which is still in my top 5 most favorite books of all time. Never Eat Alone. So that'll definitely be a link. And so one of the things I learned in his book is to create like basically like a personal board of advisors, right? To have personal or informal something board of advisors. And so that's what I put into motion, like, I don't know, many, many years ago, probably 15, 20 years ago. It has evolved a bit over the years, but those are people that I respect, that respect me, that have my back, and that care about me, and they care about me enough to be honest with me, and will, it's like that kiss and kick thing, right? So they'll applaud me if I do something, but they'll also, freely kick me when that's needed, and much of the time it's needed. So I feel like that's a really useful one. So anyhow, so this idea of a personal board of advisors, and then
I know.
have you heard of him before? Just a quick sidebar. Do you know Keith? I don't know if you know that name.
I don't know
I meant to
him.
ask you before. I was like,
I
you might
don't
know who
him,
he is. Right.
But actually, what struck into this is a couple of years ago, I was invited to I was interviewed by Frank, and one of the questions was about entrepreneurship, and one advice I would give to everyone, and what I always had, and I was sharing, have your cheerleaders and your critics, and it's basically the same thing. What I realized for me, but I love how you placed it, for me, those people were different actually. So the cheerleaders were always, yes, you can do it. And let's be honest, you do need that. And the critics were the ones that always see the bad thing, and probably people that you shouldn't be always close to because they can drag you down. But if you listen to don't take it personal and take what is good for me from that feedback, you can actually see, oh, so this is what I need to replace, or this is what I need to tweak. So I do agree with even if it's not necessarily well meant sometimes, the criticism, but I think it's important how you take it. And I agree with the imposter syndrome, and I don't think I met a person that doesn't have that, honestly, including myself. But once that you are able, and sure enough, like, I can do this, and you have your cheerleaders on your side, you can get that feedback and improve things, because the more critics you have, the shows you're doing quite a good job, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's funny. So I this is like, vulnerable moment here coming up. So I just published, or about to publish, it's scheduled, a blog article that I wrote in 2018, but I never published it because it wasn't quite perfect. So instead of being published and just move on and clear out the mental space and whatnot, it just sat and collected dust and cobwebs in my Google Drive. And so finally, I've been kind of going through this like spring cleaning in July situation. Oh, actually, it's been for several months. And looking at all of the content that I have written but never published, and just deciding, it's like when you do spring cleaning at home, is this trash? Is it recycle? Is it donation? Or am I going to keep this? Or what is it? That's what I've been doing. And so I found all of this content. And this one article is like, oh man, it's actually pretty interesting. But now you look at it, it's like, wow, this was like pre-COVID, and it's like the whole world has changed since I wrote this article just 5 years ago. But I decided, let's just kind of retrofit it a bit, clean it up, and then publish it. So yeah, so this
I'm
is
looking
like
forward to reading that.
yeah, so it's about scaling a brand, actually. The other, example I'll share is also very timely. Yeah, this is a very timely topic for me. So yeah, start now and don't wait for perfection. Okay, so as you know, I've been in management consultant for many years, and had a marketing consultancy prior to that. So merging those two has been what we've been working on for years. And the latest iteration has been to embrace sustainability and B Corps, etc. So, so I'm now a consultant to help companies certify as B Corps, and I'm really excited about it. But I'm also immediately aware of how much I don't know, and so this is like exactly what it is. Like, I want to have more experience. I want to be able to, like, it would be great to now have this whole book of business like I already have, but have it be all, B Corp companies that I've helped to certify, help them through the process. But I don't have that yet. And it's like, well, how am I going to get that? I have to
The
get started. And
keyword
it's like,
is yet.
it's like so crazy though, how it's so simple. It's like, well, of course, but then when you're in it, it can feel like, oh boy, So the way that I have been approaching it to try to, yeah, to address the tendency for analysis paralysis, which is like my middle name, is about mindset. It's like everything really is about mindset. And so rather than what my kind of practice is, rather than thinking about what I know, what I don't know, which is really self-centered thinking. So rather than thinking about myself, is to think about companies and what it is that they need, and to be curious and have conversations, to ask questions. Do they know what this is? Have they thought about it? Have they considered it? Are they interested? Would they like somebody to hold their hand through this, process? So that's, again, probably feels very simple, but it's actually quite, significant to just change the perspective on how we, or for me, how I show up to do this work.
I think
I don't know
also
if that
very
resonates.
important. It does resonate. And also one thing that I invited you to remember all the time, you did study this. You do know more than they do. And you do have, being a consultant in B Corp certification, you do have the organization behind you where you can go and figure it out, the answers that you don't know, because no one knows everything. That's the reality. And so I don't know if you know, but I study law and I have a marketing master in marketing. But what I learned from my degree in law is actually what is important is not to memorize or to by heart everything or to know everything. Is to know where to go and look for the answer.
Being resourceful.
And I think that's the key in everything. Of course you're not gonna know everything. Our brain has a specific capacity. It's impossible. But as long as you know where to start researching or where to start approaching a problem or whatever it is, a project, the answer will gonna come one by one. And we do have an episode about creativity. Then once that you have that place, the starting point, the creativity, and what makes you Jillian, what makes me Veronica, what makes all of us, our unique personality and unique company, we're going to play an important role, and we'll be able to keep on going and do something different. And this why it's very important to start and not to wait, because you can't create until you don't start.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just a quick follow-up to that. So checking the boxes of relationships and, referrals and creativity, et cetera, and competitors, even in collaboration, even it's like, woo, it's like bingo. There's a woman that I had recently met, had some conversations with, who is technically a competitor, but we've been speaking about opportunities to collaborate, of course. She has her PhD in all things sustainability, B Corp. She's like brilliant at like domain strength. She knows that inside and out. But she's new to having a consultancy, just a few months. So she's not really worked with clients or run her own business or any of these things. So it's really interesting because I've had my own kind of gig for 20 years and I'm newer to B Corp certifications, et cetera. So it's really interesting, a great opportunity for us to collaborate. So I feel like, you know, for
It's a
anybody out
beautiful
there
example.
that's starting to work on something isn't sure, you know, it's like the least unlikely place, or certainly the place that most people would never recommend, but find other people doing the same thing or doing what you want to do and have conversations, because more times than not, there is great opportunity to collaborate, and the whole
Exactly.
can be greater than the sum of the parts.
And I think stop making assumptions as well, because you will, in the example you just gave, I'm pretty sure you said this lady is the top of the top, right? She knows everything on the topic. And probably we tend, I don't know about you, I don't want to assume, but we tend to be intimidated and say like, oh, what am I doing here if that person knows so much, right? The imposter syndrome playing. But you see, she has her own issues. So a collaboration makes perfect sense. And that's what you just described. It's a beautiful example of why we are doing this podcast and why do we want to invite people to just change perspective, think differently. It doesn't need to be black and white. Actually, life is a shade of gray, right? No reference to the to the book, but that's the reality. You don't have black and white. Always something will be great and still has a little bit of black in it. Life is not perfect, so just figure it out what works best for you. And I do like, you know, if you don't try it, the best memories we have is when we made mistakes, right? Because you have fun and you are learning, and not necessarily, and good things are coming out of it, right? Like if I think now
they can make great stories. They can make great
stories, right?
Later on, like down the road, maybe.
Not in the first 3 years, definitely not. But but that's the way to learn. And think about kids, like they do need to fall in order to learn how to walk. It's the same with the business. We are not born knowing everything, and you can't. Me personally, in order to learn, I need to do. This is how my personality and my brain is working.
Adults are experiential learners, as they say. So I think that sounds to me like our takeaway and our suggestion to from today's episode is for everybody, including us, to continue to get started, to just take action and do what we can today, right? It's like we were chatting before. It's do our best today and move on. And I also think that perfection shouldn't be the target or the bullseye.
What's perfection
ever, because it's, you know, it's not actually attainable, and who wants that anyway? So anyhow, I feel
perfection means something else for everyone else as well.
Yeah, that's true. So it's kind of arbitrary. It's an arbitrary goal. So
exactly,
it's not a smart goal. Yeah.
And I do want to end this with the same invitation that I have in every single episode. I do want to hear from you, our listeners. Like, did you wait until you started your business, or are you in that position? Can we give you an advice, or are you curious to learn more on the topic? Let us know. And thank you once again, Jillian, for the amazing conversation. I hope we did manage to inspire someone to take action today.
Listen, I had fun, and I got to, you know, show you my whiteboard, whatever. I had fun today chatting, so thank you for the time.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone, and tune in next time.
Cheers.